It's another edition of the Talkin Solutions Podcast, and I'm joined by the co-founder of Used and Loved, Jess Potter. And Jess, thank you so much for coming on. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
I am good. Thank you. Joining us from the UK. And Jess, I'm really excited to have a conversation with you about your platform, Used and Loved, and what it does and all the challenges that you are providing solutions for. So if you could, Jess, just tell us a little bit about what Used and Loved is and what you're providing to everybody to help improve the world.
Sure. So me and my partner have been building Used and Loved, which is a website that searches all the different secondhand websites all at once. So we realized that there was a problem with a fragmented secondhand market and that there was so much friction for people trying to buy secondhand that they were just giving up and buying new. And we really wanted to change that and make it easier and faster and more fun. So we've built a website that brings it all together. So if you're looking for something secondhand in the UK for now, but if you're looking for something secondhand, then you can do a search and it will show you all the results from eBay, Vinted, Oxfam, and 21 websites at the moment, with the aim to really reduce waste, basically. But we also just want to appeal to everybody that wants to buy secondhand, whether that's for the climate or just for grabbing a bargain. So yeah, that's our kind of mission, to bring this to the masses, and hopefully everybody can use it as their first place to search for secondhand to get all the best results.
Yes, absolutely, especially out there over in the UK. And Jess, on that front, let's just kind of break things down a little bit to a really kind of micro level on that front. Just tell us about the importance of why it is so great to shop secondhand and how that can make you kind of a more sustainable consumer and some of the real benefits of that.
Sure. So whenever you buy new, you're paying for something that 9 times out of 10, I'm guessing, will have been made overseas. It would have been manufactured from all of the materials that the world needs, basically. So finite resources used with oil, or if you're buying a brand new phone, for example, that actually uses, I think it's 12 of the 17 precious metals in the world, which are all mined from places with really bad human rights issues, basically. So there's multi reasons why buying new is not great for the planet, which means there's so many reasons why buying secondhand is just the best answer, because we have issues with waste. So if you finish with your phone and you don't want to use it anymore and you want to get the latest model and you don't put that into recycling to get fully reused or sold on or anything like that, then it's causing a waste issue of actually going into landfill and all those precious metals just never being able to get used again. And when you buy a repurposed phone, for example, like a refurbished phone, then you're giving that phone a second life. There's so many companies out there that can fix phones, make them as good as new, and then you can use it again as if it was a new phone anyway. So that's just one example. That's just phones, but they have quite a lot of precious metals in them, which is why I think it's quite a good example. And it's something that even me, so I've been buying secondhand for about 7 years or something. My first refurbished phone wasn't until last year, and that was only because I really wanted to make myself kind of look into the issue and see what it was like to buy a refurbished phone, because I was skeptical of it. I was thinking, that it was going to break, or it just wasn't going to work very well. So there's all the areas of life where you can be buying secondhand, and every single item that you buy is reducing the waste and reducing the demand for new and endless kind of manufacturing. For example, a pair of jeans, if you were to buy a new pair, then they use 10,000 litres of water for one pair of jeans to be made. So the facts are all staggering, and we really need to provide a solution for people to help them make better choices without it having to be a difficult choice to make, which is why, again, we're trying to make secondhand shopping just easier and more fun, so that it isn't such a big kind of sacrifice to make that kind of eco choice. Yeah,
that's fantastic. I mean, it really is, and it kind of trumps the modern day kind of consumerism attitudes and the mass marketing that we've always kind of done before, where, buy new, you need this newest iPhone. I mean, I thought the phone was a perfect example that you used, because, you see the iPhone come out every year, and, and they're in credit to Apple and their marketing team and their branding, but, people will line up year after year to buy the new phone, even though there's really just not that many new upgrades. Like, you could just kind of keep your own phone or resell that phone, like you said, instead of not wasting it, especially if you don't recycle it. And then there's a lot of issue on that front. And Jess, I think as well, it's another way to be a little bit more affordable too, with the way in your purchases.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. There's so much money to be saved. For example, we're doing a Christmas campaign at the moment. So we've been looking at the kind of the value of things against what you might buy for a Christmas present. So like a nice new pair of socks would cost £10 in the UK, and so for £10 you could buy like a kid's balance bike. Like, you can buy these like big, really great things that would be used and loved so much for the same price as like a pair of socks that nobody wants. And you can just buy so many more like thoughtful gifts. So yeah, there's absolute massive bargains to be had, and it means that you can buy better quality as well. So you can buy, for example, if you were going to buy a new pair of jeans from like a high street retailer for like £30, then for that same £30 you could buy a secondhand pair of Levi's. So you can buy much better quality that are built to last, and they won't just like rip at the seams in the first like 6 months of wearing them. So yeah, I think
a lot of pros all the way around. I think one of the issues that we have around secondhand and that we have around buying used and things of that nature as well is a couple of things, and that's what Used and Loved addresses your company on that front. Number one is a searchable marketplace for it. Like, it's kind of difficult to find some used products. From a local perspective, it's not bad. I mean, at least in the area I live, you can go to the thrift store and there's lots of used and they seem to be pretty frequent around. But from an internet search base, there really doesn't seem to be a model that pulls everything in from different sources on that front. So tell us a little bit about why you thought that. How did that epiphany kind of happen to you that, hey, this was going to be the platform and the way to do so?
So first of all, I have ADHD, which I think is part of my superpower of how I've ended up in this place. But basically, when I go to sleep, if I don't write down my inventions that I'm having just before I go to sleep, then I can't sleep. So I always write them down. I have a little notepad. And this was one of my inventions. It was to obviously bring all the different secondhand websites all together. And the reason that I came up with it is because when me and my partner were trying to only buy secondhand for our babies, when I was pregnant with our first child, we just realized how time consuming and how frustrating it was to avoid buying new, and how tough it was to just not give up and buy new. And so we just realized that there would be there are millions of people that would have been giving up at the first hurdle way earlier than I would have done, because I was so committed to not buying anything new. And it could all just be avoided. If that first hurdle could be addressed, that instead of not being able to find what you're looking for, you can find what you're looking for, then, so many more people would be captured into like, the easy solution of being able to buy the thing that they were looking for initially, and not going to those really cheap shops just because that's the other alternative solution, especially if money is your issue.
Exactly on that front. I mean, I think that's really kind of hits the nail on the head with how you can kind of come about that in that issue on that front. And another thing as well that I think is super important within this is kind of the education aspect of it as well, Jess. I do think that there are lots of bargains to be had, as you mentioned before, lots of waste to be reduced, all by just kind of being more sustainable in general, all by just kind of buying used and being able to love that product, which is why I love the name. It's fantastic. Great work. And within that front, though, I think it is kind of education and kind of stigma as well. Sometimes I think there's a stigma that comes from, at least over here in the US, that when you buy secondhand, it's like, oh, why did you buy something secondhand? Do you not have money, or what are you thinking and doing? Which I think is changing. Yeah. But how important do you think kind of overcoming that stigma and kind of providing the education and all these benefits of buying secondhand will play moving forward into the higher impact and the more frequent buyers of secondhand in the future?
So I think it's completely essential. I think we need more and more people to be. I think there's a big positive feedback loop that's has so many facets to it. So the positive feedback loop to start with, that the initial problem that this website will solve will be the people that already buy secondhand will find what they're looking for more often and more easily, which means they'll then turn to buying secondhand more often rather than choosing to buy new. But that will impact the people that sell items, because those people will sell their things more often, because you go to a lot of effort to sell stuff secondhand online. And quite often actually the stuff doesn't sell, and then you're left with the stuff that you've put all that effort into trying to get rid of it. So anyway, there's that positive feedback loop, and that all spins out then into people having more conversations about secondhand, and like, oh, look what I got, this is secondhand, like it cost me a tenner and it should have cost me 80 quid, or whatever it would be. But what we want to try and do is try and make secondhand shopping like as fun and cool as possible, rather than it being something that is just for the planet, if that makes sense, because there's so many people that just don't care about the planet, and I used to be one of those people, so I get it. If you aren't aware and you don't want to hear it because you're just happy with your life, then that's just the way it's going to be for a lot of people. But if we can make secondhand like really desirable and really fun, then it will get more people doing it and talking about it and making it more normal and breaking that stigma. And it definitely is changing already. So I've got some like aunties and people like that who used to be like you described, like, why would you buy secondhand, like, when you can buy new? Like, do you not have enough money, like you said? And they are starting to see the benefits of it, that you can buy unique things that you can't buy in the shops. If you want to have something that is like a vintage handbag or whatever, then you can only buy that secondhand. And what I think is great is that the high-end market is switching to secondhand. So there's really great rental platforms for the high-end market, for example, which if the high-end luxury end of the market are accepting secondhand, that will have the biggest impact filtering down, because obviously people look up to the high-end market for inspiration and for trends and stuff like that. So I think that's a really great move forward. And the fact that there's so many rental options coming up, and there's peer-to-peer rental. So if you have some really nice things, or like a kayak that you never use, or whatever it might be, you can now start like renting your stuff out to people in your neighborhood, so that you don't need to like have that thing sitting there, and you don't need to see it as an item that is just yours. It can be shared, and you can make money from it as well. So there's all these different things going on that I think is completely changing the world, and I am so here for it. And I really want to help raise awareness of all these different platforms and all these different ways and methods of enjoying a secondhand life. So yeah, it's all about raising the voices, basically, I think is the most important thing. And it doesn't necessarily need to be about the education. Like, I think it's really important for some people, but for a lot of people, it's just about hearing about it and it becoming socially acceptable.
Yeah, you really, a lot of those things kind of resonated with me there. There's a couple things that kind of stand out, just kind of about the way it's evolving on that front. I'm not a big consumer, to be honest. I don't shop very often. I don't browse. I just don't, I get clothes. I just ask my sister every Christmas, hey, let's up my wardrobe. That's all I want for Christmas. So for me, it's a little different, but just hearing you speak with that answer and what you had is, number one, as soon as you attach the word vintage to something, then all of a sudden it's amazing. Like, oh, I for sure need to buy this secondhand, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of been there as well. And then you made the comment about the rental marketplaces now. I mean, I've met a lot of people with some slow fashion apps, things of that nature as well. Lucky Sweater is one who I had on the podcast earlier, formerly known as Isthmus. And, they have a exchange program for clothes and stuff like that, or bags, and you can kind of trade and swap, which is really great. And then, the other rental platforms, like people are able to rent their cars now with like the Toro app and stuff, and Airbnb and all these rental platforms. So I definitely kind of see that progressing. And that's a really great point on that front as well. But Jess, I'd love to kind of dive now into your solution and how exactly it really does benefit and makes things easier. You touched on it a little bit on earlier on the front, but tell us a little bit, if I'm a consumer and I'm ready to kind of go to your website and I want to try to find some new items and things of that nature, like how's the website work, and how can you kind of utilize it to find the items that you're looking for?
Okay, so I think this is also perfect timing for me to plug our Christmas campaign that we're doing, because it gives it in a really great example. So for secondhand, at the moment, you need to kind of, first of all, it's difficult to find what you're looking for, but also you need to know what you're looking for, because if you go to like a high street retailer online website, for example, you don't really need to know what you're looking for. You can just be shown stuff and it will suggest for you things that are trending and in fashion right now, and things like that. And it will say, oh, sorry, I think I might have just lost you. There you are. So where was I? I just got completely distracted by that. Apologies. Oh yeah, so if you are looking for something secondhand, you need to know what you're looking for. And we really want to change that, because the secondhand market is so huge and there is everything you could possibly think of. But that's kind of the problem, is that then you get shoppers paralysis because you don't know what you're looking for. So you need to have suggestions like you would expect if you were going to buy something new. You need to have things to say like, oh, this would be good, or, you know, might be what you need if you're having a baby or you're going camping. Like, these are some of the things that you need to buy. But if you just have like a search bar and saying like, here's the whole world of secondhand, people are like, well, I don't know what I want. So we're really trying to change that by adding suggested searches. So if you go onto our homepage, then you'll see at the moment there's like a Christmas box, an autumn fashion box, and then homewares, I think, is up there. Because we've created these suggested search categories to help spark some imagination, basically, or like help you just discover and navigate and see what is out there, basically. So for the Christmas lists, you can go into Christmas. We've actually got 1,500 plus Christmas secondhand gift suggestions for over 80 different types of people. So everyone that you can think of, so like your mum, your brother, you know, all of the members of your family, and your girlfriend, fiance, whoever. And then also things for like stocking fillers and advent calendar fillers and Christmas decoration wrapping alternatives, and everything that you can think of to do with Christmas are in these lists so that you can really browse through them and see what people might want to buy. So for example, for fiance, there's like 25 suggestions of what you might like, what a female fiance might like to have as a Christmas present. And obviously none of them are going to be exactly right for every person in the world, but the main point of it is to get the imagination flowing and think, oh, well, actually, maybe if they liked an opal, they might not like opal earrings, but they might like an opal necklace or an opal ring or something like that. So yeah, the whole point of it is to really open your eyes to what is already out there. And then when you actually click on each of those items, it shows you all of the things that are available right now. So you can actually straight away click and buy one of those things. So if you clicked on the opal earrings button, then you can see all the opal earrings that are available on eBay, Oxfam Vintage, and all of the other websites that we're listing. So yeah, it's just super simple to click through and buy stuff and be inspired. And we're working on some really awesome other stuff. I'm not sure how much I should say just yet, but it's basically where you can shop the look from different people, and again, all secondhand. We don't list anything new at all. So it really helps the consumer consume sustainably, you know, because if you go onto eBay at the moment or any of those other websites, you're actually seeing more new stuff than you are used. Like, you know, you have to filter out the used stuff every time you do a new search, and it's really annoying. So with our website, you know that you're only going to be seeing the secondhand stuff. So it makes that whole conscious choice easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
It's all just going to be right there and used for you, and it's like a big search algorithm. It's really great. You just type in exactly what you want. The suggested searches, now that sounds wonderful for a person like myself who never, I mean, I don't even know what I want for myself, you know, let alone others sometimes. So some type of suggestions is always fantastic on that front as well, and that sounds really exciting to kind of move forward with that in the product. And so what type of feedback have you gotten so far, Jess, from a lot of the people that are utilizing your platforms? You've mentioned that it's kind of for everybody, right? Obviously, you know, for me personally, I think it's a fantastic way to, number one, get some more sustainable consumerism. I think we have mass market consumerism, which has not treated things particularly well on a lot of different fronts. But on the secondary side of things, I think it's going to save people a lot of money. There's that minimalism movement on that front, and there's just kind of some help there. And then, thirdly, as well, you're kind of supporting others, because other people are kind of reselling their stuff. And instead of buying from a mass market retailer, you're now buying from someone local who might need that money a little bit more. So I would just curious, out of those kind of three things, and I'm sure there are others, what type of feedback are customers kind of giving you and of the platform, and how are they enjoying using it?
Yeah, it's just all been positive. There's the only potential negative things has just been that we don't have websites like Gumtree yet, but we're just about to add them, so they're all coming. But the feedback's just been really great, that it's really clean and clear and simple to use. It's bright and fresh and friendly feeling, and it's getting people to use it that to buy secondhand that hadn't even considered buying secondhand. So for example, one person found the website through a social media post that I had made, and they were about to buy a new coffee machine that someone had recommended that they buy this one that I think was £500, and they bought one from our website that was £250. So it's still an expensive purchase, but they've saved £250. So they were really happy about that, obviously. And yeah, it's just really great. And I loved what you mentioned, by the way, about the giving back to the community. So I don't know if you've noticed, but our logo is an upside down triangle. So normally that's the hierarchy of the number one man at the top earns all the money, and then us consumers are down here at the bottom. But we're completely flipping it so that it's the consumers that are getting the money, and we're taking it away from the man, basically. Because why should we give all of our hard-earned money to big corporations that don't pay their taxes and things like that, when we could be supporting your neighbour and buying something from them instead? So that's what we really love about the whole ethos, basically, of the business, is that we are really supporting local communities and the circular economy. And the circular economy is run by communities.
It's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, the circular economy right there, you're kind of just bringing it all back and really kind of empowering the neighbor next door, or something of that nature, which I think is really important on that front, going forward with that type of consumerism and things of that nature as well. Currently, how many platforms are you able to pull from roughly to kind of bring some items in?
Yeah, so we have 21 websites at the moment, and loads of the feedback is that people didn't even know that there were that many. But we have another 20 that we're just about to add as well. So it's going to be so many. And what we also love about the website is that we're going to be able to showcase and give a platform to all of the small guys, and give them the same visibility as the big guys like eBay and Gumtree and places like that. So there's so many smaller sellers that have Shopify stores or websites like that, where they've really easily been able to get the kind of tech side of it set up, but build really credible businesses. There's one company, for example, called Pre-Loved Sports, and they get donations of sportswear and trainers and stuff like that, and then they make them look good, and then they sell them on their website, and they give a lot of their money to charity. So they're a really awesome company, and it's just so nice that we can support them and show people their stuff, because I'm guessing most people on the internet would never have found them, if it wasn't for them being on our website. So yeah, it's really great to be able to help all of these different
yeah, fantastic. 21 already, and getting 20 more coming in, and we're starting to really kind of take over that used market. That's fantastic. The secondhand. And Jess, tell me a little bit about maybe some of the challenges, or has it been fairly easy to kind of integrate with all of these different platforms to kind of pull that data in, or have there been any challenges on that front, or for the most part, has it been pretty smooth sailing there?
So far it's been pretty smooth sailing. So we use various different methods. So for example, eBay, they have a big affiliate partner network where we use their API, and then the smaller guys will build a scraper, so they don't have to do anything tech wise. We can just get the information from their website, because quite often they aren't tech founders. It's people that wouldn't know how to do that. And then other kind of third party. So there's some companies that we're in conversation with at the moment that we would love to get on board, you know, the ones that people keep asking for. I don't know if I should say their name or not, but we're just really hoping that we can get some of these other big website names over the line so that we can give our users all the options that they would kind of expect to see. So that's one of the challenges. Another challenge is just the amount of time that it takes when you're just two people. You know, Davey, the co-founder, is our technical co-founder, so he's built the whole thing completely from scratch. And we actually started about 4 years ago now, which I can't believe it every time I say that out loud. But it's just been a really slow process because he has been on such a steep learning curve to teach himself all the tech stuff that he's needed to know to build such a complicated machine, basically. And with that comes with setbacks. You know, he might have built something and then he realized that it should have been built like a slightly different way, so needed to kind of go back and redo some of the bits. So it's been really inspirational that I've been able to watch him not give up, you know, over this whole really long period of time. I've been working on it full time for a year, which I still can't even believe it's been a year, to be honest. But yeah, it's been a really great journey. We haven't had that many challenges apart from, you know, fundraising is hard when you haven't done it before, but at least we've got one round under our belt now, so we have more experience to be really successful at the next round. And it's all just part of the learning. I haven't really seen any of it as like a major challenge so far.
That's part of it, right? You got to love the journey, right, to get to the destination. So really, really great that is indeed the case, and congratulations on the fundraising round that you just closed here recently. And yeah, and just kind of within that as well, like we talked a lot about, you know, the consumer and like how they're using your platform and what they're kind of getting back and things of that nature as well. Like how much of what the consumer, your users, your customers, however you kind of want to call them, if you will, how much of their opinions do you kind of take into account when you're thinking about new ideas to add in or to your product roadmap or whatever it might be? You know, how much of the users say and the consumer say kind of comes into your plans?
Yeah, it's kind of all of it really. So we get user feedback and we hear what people are suggesting, what they're looking for, what they're hoping for, and try and make sure that that's what we're building, basically, because it's not just us that needs to use it, obviously. One interesting thing that I'm really excited about is the fact that I do actually feel like it's now a website that I can use and search and find stuff, if that makes sense. So because we've been building it for so long, it's kind of crept up on me that actually we're at that point now where it does give you what you need, like the gist of it. So for example, Davey just a couple of days ago added a feature so that you can now see in the listings whether something on eBay is buy it now or auction. Because before, when you were searching through and you were seeing stuff for like £2, it's like, oh, that's really cheap. But then you wouldn't be able to see that it was actually an auction item and how many days it had left and stuff like that. So now you have like that information. So just every single day we're adding these things that are making it so much more user friendly. And I'm really excited for the next few weeks because we've got some really big other features that we're going to be adding and rolling out, which
there we go. Fantastic. New features coming in. That's a great one as well. Yeah, because it's kind of like $2. Oh, you get excited, then you click through and you're like, oh, it's an auction. You know, so even like a small detail like that can kind of really add to it on that front as well. Jess, another thing I'd be curious about is, you know, we've talked a lot about kind of the consumer, but the other half of this is a lot of these times are these used stores, these used online platforms that kind of have going on. Of course, you know, you have eBay, which is giant, but as you mentioned before, there are smaller ones that are kind of more locally tailored. I can't remember exactly what you called that one, but the sports one that kind of gives back, right? With when you buy for it on that front. So when you're kind of pitching to them and you're kind of telling them about the platform, you know, what is kind of the best approach to do that on that front? Is it what message kind of resonates most to them? Obviously, you know, having people buy their product is, you know, super important, right? But do they love the idea of the secondhand, the consumerism, the idea that, you know, to kind of be a little bit more conscious and sustainable with your purchases?
Yeah, I'd say all of them, all of the smaller ones that we've been speaking, where we actually talk to, the owner directly rather than just like an email chain kind of thing. Then they all love the fact that it's secondhand only, so they're not having to compete with all the new things that are being listed, and they love the fact that it's helping people make those sustainable choices, because that's what they're all doing their websites for as well. They all care so much about saving this stuff that would otherwise just get thrown away, and they're all in on their own journeys doing these amazing things, and it's just so great that we get to partner with people that are so like-minded to us, that they really care as much as we do. So for example, there's a company, Thriftify, that we've listed, who, I don't know if you've heard of them before. They're from Ireland, so probably not, but they are getting charity shops online. So the charity shops in the UK anyway have been kind of inherently short-staffed and run by volunteers, and don't have the resources to kind of get online basically. But Thriftify are making that whole process easier, so they're bringing charity shops online, and they're doing an amazing job, and they're really making secondhand trendy as well, and like something to follow basically. So I really love what they're doing. And the Circle, for example, they resell people's clothes for them, so they're kind of designer or high-end high street. So they'll take the clothes for them, and then they'll list them, they'll put them on actual models, or people can wear them, so that it's like a new shopping experience, the same experience that you would get if you were buying new. But then they also have like a buyback guarantee as well. So once you've finished with the item, you can sell it back to them for credit for more secondhand things from them. So it's just like a whole circle where nothing gets wasted. So I love the ethos of like all of these different things. So yeah, there's massive progress being made, and we love that we get to help push these people to the forefront basically, and collaborate and do partnerships and guest posts and stuff like that also.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so much kind of to be seen in the future, because I do think like we're in the early innings of this kind of development when it comes to secondhand shopping and things of that nature as well. I think it's getting more and more popular. Maybe we need Macklemore to come out with another thrift shop song, I don't know, but in all but in all seriousness, I think that it's going to be something that's going to kind of change and continue to develop a little bit over time, which kind of leads me to my next question is, what kind of excites you the most about the product, and maybe not even necessarily just your product, but about the industry in general, for the next 10 years? You had mentioned earlier that you were trying to shop sustainably for your kids, and how do you kind of foresee that for future parents? And then in addition to that, that generation, even with a further outlook in their approach to shopping.
Yeah, so I think that's such a good point to raise, because quite often people that we speak to, our customers, are on the beginning part of their journey to buying secondhand, and it quite often starts with them buying secondhand for their kids, because they can more clearly see the short-term need and the wastage that it would cause if they just bought all that stuff new. So that's like their first step onto the sustainable ladder. But it's also teaching their kids that they don't need to be buying new, and I think that is so important with the legacy and the future of the planet, is making sure that way of thinking about consumerism is passed on, because the younger generation that's coming up now, apart from the people that just buy loads of Shane, they are being more conscious, and they are more aware of their footprint, and probably terrified of the future, because we should be, even at our age, they're saying, I don't want to get too doom and gloom and terrified about it, but it is scary. If we don't do something then drastic, then things are going to get really bad. So they can see the value, and they can see that they need to do this. And I think that the journey to secondhand living just starts with that one step. So the parents buying the stuff for their kids, they'll eventually start buying stuff for themselves, and then they'll see that actually they get used to the process and it's a bit more of a habit. And then once you have a bit more of a habit of the whole buying process, then it can just be part of your life, So I think that's one of the biggest issues, is the habit of buying new, that's really hard to break, and the resisting the temptation to buy new from, all the marketing that we see. And I'll give you an example of that, actually. So I tested myself the other day. I went into, I don't know if I'm sure they're a global company, but Lidl, so or maybe it was Aldi, one of the two, they have aisles of just stuff in the middle of their supermarket where it's like a bike torch that goes red, or whatever random stuff that you just don't really need, but I'll start my story slightly again. I tested myself by going into this shop to see what it would be like as a consumer, who I just don't put myself in that situation anymore of going into new shops, because I know I'm quite weak. I give in to temptation. So I walked down these aisles that just were full of all these gadgets and like home things. And I was like, I wonder if I'll, want to buy anything, or if I really am strong enough now to say no. And by the end of the first aisle, I had convinced myself that I needed to buy this like Winnie the Pooh plate and cup set. I was like, oh, my daughter would really like that, and it will make her happier, and she would, it would make our lives better if we bought this thing, and like a few other things. And I just couldn't believe, even though I was so aware of what I was doing, consciously going down that aisle, that I was still sold to, by all this stuff. So for everybody else, I can completely understand why it's so hard not to buy new. So we just need to make it a habit that buying secondhand is fun and good, and you can get like really cool things and really unique things, and have more of a unique style and everything like that, to break this awful over consumerism.
Exactly. You got to make it fun. You got to make it interesting. You got to create connections amongst the people on the platform and fans and all those types of fun things, community, if you will, on that front, especially in the digital age. So I think it's on the right track. You talked about some doom and gloom, but people like yourselves are just making that contribution to kind of flip that up on its head and make it a little bit more positive of an outlook in the future by promoting and educating people about the benefits of buying secondhand and things of that nature as well. So, Jess, I asked you this before, but let's make it crystal clear and simple. If I'm listening to this episode and I'm like, this sounds great, and I am located in the UK, because I do believe that it's only in the UK right now, correct, Jess? Yes. You have plans to expand in the future?
Yeah, for now, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There you go. More reason to follow along now eventually. So you can get all the insights in and be prepared for when they launch out of the UK. But Jess, if you're in the UK right now and you really want to listen, or you really want to kind of use your platform, all you got to do is go to your website and sign up, create an account, and start searching.
Yeah, that's it. You don't even need to create an account, but it would be great if people did, so that we can, let them know about when we add new websites and new features. So it's usedandloved.com. It's completely free to use. And if you follow us on Instagram as well, so Used and Loved UK. And we can also have a link, actually, thinking about it, to usedandloved.com/Talkin Solutions, because then we can show people, all of the best bits at once. So that would be the best link to follow.
Yeah, there we go. You heard it here first. You get exclusive access just by listening to the podcast on that front. So definitely be sure to take advantage of that link as well. And Jess, again, anything else that you would like to kind of promote here before I let you go?
Just the Christmas lists, and even if you're in the UK, you can have a look at those lists and just get some inspiration. If you're thinking about buying something, buying a gift secondhand this year, there's so much stigma around, whether something secondhand is good enough, but there is so much stuff that is as good as new, and people probably wouldn't even, care that it was secondhand if it was vintage, like you said. And so there's so much stuff. So get some inspiration and just have a look and see what kind of ideas we've put together. and see if it will help you come up with some
awesome.
ideas.
Be sure to check that out, the Christmas list at Used and Loved on that front as well. And again, if you're in the US or you're outside of the UK and this is something that you're interested in or you want to promote, remember that you can always share it with your friends in the UK so that they can be aware of it as well, and they can kind of take advantage of this fantastic search engine that they kind of got going on usedandloved.com. But Jess, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate your time. That's Jess Potter, the co-founder of Used and Loved, joining us on the Talkin Solutions podcast. Once again, you can visit the website at usedandloved.com. That's usedandloved.com, just as it sounds. And then, of course, you can follow them on social media, on Instagram, to get up-to-date info, sign up for their newsletter on their website, Facebook, all of that type of good stuff as well. And of course, we'll have some information on them throughout the week that we launch this episode on our social media channel. So be sure to follow us there. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, I encourage and ask that you leave a review, subscribe to the podcast as well, so you can hear about more fantastic solutions from founders like Jess that are solving some societal issues and promoting some good in the world and some more optimism, so there's no more doom and gloom. But that's going to wrap up this episode of the podcast, and until next time, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week. Thanks for listening to the Talkin Solutions Podcast. Tune in every Wednesday for a new episode and check out all of our guests on our website at cheshtech.com. That's CHESHTECH.com to learn more as we continue our mission of supporting impact-driven founders. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Talkin Solutions Podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Talkin Solutions. If you like this episode, I'd really appreciate a review and a recommendation to a friend as we focus on highlighting these great founders and individuals providing solutions to societal problems and bringing optimism into the world.